Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Plank Code podcast. I'm Max. Today, my guest Bruno is from Brazil. You can find him on Instagram at MyVeganDate. He doesn't seem that interested in what I'm talking about him right now, but he's a great guy. So Bruno, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Not that I wasn't interested. I was focusing on what was being said. I was listening to.
Okay, you're a very humble guy. And today we're in Loose Unicorns, as you can see behind. It is a cool cafe in the marina, so do check it out. I'll put a link down below. They were kind enough to invite us. They have some great vegan options, so do check it out. So Bruno, how long have you been vegan for?
Well, I can't pinpoint a specific date, but I would say on and off altogether, I would put a nice 6 years, 6.5 years.
Solid. That's longer than me.
It is a while. I've been vegetarian ever since I can remember, but veganism is something that came about a little bit later on, and it might have started even before I realized it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say.
So there was no like turning point essentially for you.
Absolutely not. No.
And when you say you've been vegetarian for as long as you can remember, what does that mean? Because I can't remember what I did yesterday. So
yeah, that's true. Well, I can't remember either. But what I meant was ever since a young age, I can remember refusing to eat meat and like going for other options, which was a little bit of a challenge growing up in Brazil.
Exactly, yeah.
It wasn't very easy because we have a culture that's very centered in the consumption of protein through meat. Yeah, so it was a concept that was unheard of.
Yeah.
So I can remember struggling at a young age to get to be a vegetarian, but
yeah, I mean, you guys are famous for the barbecues and all
exactly.
of the meat, and you have one of the, I think, the biggest beef industries in the world as well.
Exactly, and that kind of like hurts us as well, like in a sense, because I feel like the cuisine that could be explored, because we have such a beautiful country with so many different ingredients, and there's literally so much to be explored. I feel like people get too centered in that one thing, that one speciality that they have, and because it makes money, it's just an easy way.
Yeah.
They tend to focus on that.
And because it's cultural doesn't make it right either.
Correct.
It's not because it's always been done in that way and we've done it for generations that it makes it morally and ethically right as well. So how did your parents feed you when you were young and you wanted to eat vegetarian food?
Bless my mother for putting up with all the odd and crazy requests. It wasn't easy. Yeah, I remember being young and the family, my whole family never was big on eating meat as per se, like the red meat. I'm the kind of vegan now that I've never ate anything like pork or fish in my life. I've never tried it, neither had the desire of trying it.
Yeah.
And I would have back then I would have red meat through the form of like burgers or meatballs, because
I mean that's no longer meat anymore anyway, is it? Let's
Exactly.
be honest, it's processed. But
that's what I could tolerate, because the whole idea of having a piece of like meat was just revolting to me from a young age.
Yeah.
I was convinced by like by family and doctors that I needed to have that. So the one thing that I could compromise back then was chicken. So that's pretty much all, like all I ate growing up.
Right.
And that's what my mother fed us. Yeah. As I grew older and I started to have more access to information, because like we're talking about now, like late 80s and then 90s, because that's when there was not a lot of access to information.
Yeah, I mean the growth of veganism has been probably, they say since 2005 they've seen a spike. Or 2005, that was Earthlings, that the documentary came out, that had a big impact, and then the growth of social media in the following years, and that's when things really started to rise and there's been a lot more options.
Yeah, and access to information as well, because now people know what it is, and people know that there are other ways to like to get your protein and to get like all the macro and micronutrients that you need. So it definitely made a difference. So with the access of information.
Clearly, like, you're not lacking protein. I mean, you go to the gym, you're a pretty strong guy by the look of it. You're not like a weak vegan like me, but I'm just lazy. I don't go to the gym. My personal choice.
Stop it.
Yeah. So how do you like work it in with your exercise then? Because that's always a question that comes to people trying to build muscle. How can you do it on a vegan diet?
And it's true, because I always get people saying, really, they don't believe that I'm a vegan, because up until not so long ago, I was sitting at 100 kilos. And for my height, like that's quite a lot.
How tall are you?
Yeah, I'm 181.
Okay.
And I was sitting at 100 kilos, and I've always been that solid, like big guy, and you know, like it was never a matter of lacking anything. So it was more of who I was. Yeah. But recently I decided to challenge myself and to take it to the next level, and I started learning, diving more into the whole nutrition thing and what I should and what I should not have, and exercise a little bit more and be more conscious about that. As I'm getting older, I figured, you know, like now is the time to do that, to get used to exercise routine, to get used to new diet patterns, and get to know myself a little bit better as, you know, like I go into older years of my life, knowing what to do to be in shape and to keep strong and whatnot.
I mean, it's good that you're setting yourself up in that direction. And so 6 years ago, you said you became fully vegan. And when did you start the My Vegan Date thing? 'Cause I love the concept of it. Do you want to tell us what your concept is?
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you, very kind. It was more of my idea of contributing, to the cause, to the people who are looking for inspiration, and people out there who perhaps, you know, like just needed something to be entertained by and see what are the options out there in the world. I've always said, you know, like I might not be very good at cooking, but I'm good at eating, and I'm very good.
That's half of cooking, isn't it?
Thank you very much. No, basically, yeah, I'm very good at eating, and I'm very good at talking to people. So I figured, you know, like what better way to get to know people with the same mindset than setting up an account where I could go around the world, which I do for a living, which is, you know, like a great opportunity to get to know different people in different places and find out a little bit more of what it's like to lead a vegan lifestyle in that particular country, in that particular city, and share a little bit of my perspective. And
so you have like a dinner date or lunch date with someone in the different countries, or?
Basically, yes. Yeah, it's whatever is available, depending on the timing. Yeah, if I get to meet someone who is free for lunch, I'll gladly have lunch with them. I'll have dessert or have a coffee. Yeah. So it really depends. It's just really about sitting down with a person, and the whole idea of having the name, the vegan date, is a date with anyone, people with the same mindset. Yeah, I'll happily sit with the 85-year-old grandma. Yeah, I'll sit with a guy who was an athlete.
Yeah, it's not Tinder, is it? You're not looking for a relationship.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's to meet people. Yeah.
That would be. I don't think that would be the way to go about it. Yeah, so I decided to do something in a more friendly manner, on a friendlier approach. So it's a nice chat, you know, to get to know them a little bit better and then get their perspective. I'm always fascinated. What is it like to be vegan in Japan? What is it like to be vegan in Nigeria? What do people in Rio do nowadays? Because I've been out of Rio for many years now. First time I left was 2003. So.
Yeah, I mean, things must have changed like crazy in those 15 years now, especially with the vegan scene that's popping up everywhere now. It's like the restaurants are popping up literally like mushrooms.
They did, yeah. It's incredible to see. Just yesterday, one of my friends was sending me pictures of a vegan fair in my hometown, which is not majorly known for having a big restaurant scene and whatnot. Yeah, I'm from Rio, the state, but I'm from a city that's called Niterói. And in Niterói, it's kind of got that small town feel to it.
Right.
But now it's holding, you know, like vegan festivals, and they had everything from traditional Brazilian food to, you know, like imports, like donuts and things that are not traditionally from our cuisine, but have been adapted and are vegan.
I mean, you must have seen a big change in the 6 years that you've been vegan as well, of like the options that you have just in supermarkets, even here in Dubai, without going international. Like now you have literally sections, be it the processed meats or be it the milks that are available. Well, actually not allowed to call it milk anymore, are you? It's what's it? Plant-based drink or something? Because apparently we're stealing away the idea of what milk is. Well, the way they're selling milk is already a lie.
We just call it milk. Oh, I don't know if I can say that, but I think we just call it milk because it would be weird to call it nut juice.
Titty juice.
Nut juice, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
The option. That would be weird.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that.
Well, nut juice, I'm fine. I'd rather drink nut juice than cow boob juice.
True.
You know, if
true, but apparently the name might be a little bit weird for people. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to get into terminology, but that's not what we came here to redefine the dictionary of words.
Not at all. But
so
yes,
you talked about travel. So a lot of people say to me, "How can I travel as a vegan?" You know, because it's not necessarily catered, as on a plant-based diet. You know, without talking about the aspects of single-use plastic and all these things that are involved in travel as well. How do you manage, say, you're taking an airplane, how do you eat vegan food for like the 6, 7, 8, 10 hour flight that you're doing?
Okay. I do come across that a lot because a lot of people, the moment they they see me pull out food off my bag, they say, "Oh my God, that's so healthy. What are you doing? What are you eating? Oh, look at you." And people are impressed by it.
Are you on a diet?
Exactly, all the time, yeah. Exactly. So people are impressed by it. They do see that there is an effort there.
Yeah.
They don't quite seem to understand what the concept is. Um, all I tell them, because a lot of people say I couldn't do that, that's too much work, that's too hard. And I usually hit them back with questions, like I ask them, do you order takeout every day or do you cook at home? Because either way, if you cook at home, all you got to do is make a bigger batch and then put it in a container for the next day and keep it in the fridge. That's it, and take that in the flight. If you order takeout, order an extra takeout, put it in the container and take it with you. If you have somebody who cooks for you, ask them to cook extra. It's the work, it's literally putting the food into a container and taking it with you.
Yeah, it's the same work, isn't it? Anyway, you're already cooking, so just cook more.
It's absolutely no extra work. There's no extra effort. And everybody makes it seem like I go out of my way a lot to make that happen and that I basically have no life. And, like my role in this conversation is just literally to show to them it's not as complicated, it's not as hard as it seems.
I mean, especially now, like you see with ordering food, it's so easy to order food. Everyone's ordering food and it's growing. And I have a bit of a problem with that from the environmental aspect because obviously that food's traveling, it's in plastic, in containers and all these things. And so if you're going to do it, order an extra dish and then it gives you something for the next day and it avoids another trip and all that stuff and all the cutlery that is involved.
That is basically it, yeah. And what I do is I bring the container from home, so I don't use the takeout container that they have, like at the restaurants or whatever. I have my own containers. I bring it in the flight with me, and then I wash it off on the layovers because, like when I'm out of the country, I don't have a kitchen, I don't have anything at my disposal. So I need to order and buy from a restaurant as well. So I use the same container that I brought the food out in. I bring it back.
Okay. So you rinse it off in like the hotel? Or
I literally wash it off and then I use that same container going back.
Okay, yeah.
And it's so funny because some restaurants, when I go to them with the container, and I had that happen to me quite a few times. I was in Brazil and I asked them for, like some food for takeout, and I handed them my container and they're like, we're not allowed to touch that. That's not, like we can't handle your container. Because it's a concept that's so out of their,
for sanitary reasons, or
I believe so. Yeah, they said, like this is your container. We don't deal with that. We're responsible for our packaging or whatever. So I said, you know what? Understood. I'm not gonna argue with that. Like I'm just trying to do something better, something that I believe is helpful. So why don't you just put it on a regular plate instead of putting it on a takeout package? Put it on a regular plate, and I'll pack it myself on the table. They were fine with that, so that worked out for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to, like get them into trouble or anything like that. So it just made it easy for us both. But just carry my container. That's, that's literally no work.
Yeah, I mean, you make it sound so easy, which it actually is, isn't it? And we're just so comfortable today with the life that we live. We do minimum effort for everything, and we get by, And
Sure.
Whereas if you put a little bit of effort, you can make so much change. And one thing I want to touch on, for those of you who are watching this, who are asking yourself the question, yes, this settee is made from leather, and no, I do not support leather. I had a conversation with the owner about, is it leather, why he has it, and everything. And I was struggling with whether or not I should sit on this couch, but I was like, it's already here, the harm's been done. And I was explaining to the owner, like, why he shouldn't buy leather, and he's like, yeah, I'd never buy a leather item again. So I can understand why some people might think that it's hypocritical for me to talk about the environment and these things sitting on a leather couch when I honestly don't support leather. And if you do have any leather products and you are vegan, I suggest donating them, and which is what I'm trying to do, get rid of everything that I have. And what do you think about leather?
Okay, so as I said, my whole journey was sort of like a progression. It wasn't a turning point. I did own things that were made out of leather, but as I went into, like veganism and reading through the whole concept, I started to opt for things that are not made out of leather.
Yeah.
So anything that I owned that I had already used, I thought, like at the same time, I am I'm pro environment, and that means also not wasting anything. So I agree with your point of not simply throwing it away. Yeah, just if you have it, you already have it. It's there. Wear it out. Use it for as long as you can, and then find another use for it, so that so it doesn't end on a landfill. Get it to a place where it can be made to good use, recycled or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, people often use that argument as well with meat. Well, it's already dead, I might as well eat it. But the thing is, if you eat meat, then you're also creating a demand.
Yep.
And whereas the leather item is technically already there. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love to know what people think about that. So do reach out to me at The Plank Code on Instagram or at theplankcode@mail.com. I'd love to have your thoughts on those things and how you deal with it. And that's when we tend to get too overwhelmed trying to do absolutely everything at the same time.
Yep.
And
That's
then
true.
we fear of even taking one step in the right direction.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It can be quite overwhelming, but the thing is, it's not about doing everything, like perfectly all the time. It's more of having more and more people doing things, like they're not perfect, they're like imperfectly.
Yeah.
Do it imperfectly. Do what you can. Do little by little.
Yeah.
So don't criticize anyone who is making an effort,
Yeah.
who's trying. Allow them to try and allow people to have their own time and discover things on their own, because that's how my journey went. And
Yeah.
of course, and that goes for the diet too, like I always tell everyone, because you must hear that comment all the time as well, when people say, I could never do it, or I could never start. And I just say, how about adding more things to your diet that are vegan, adding more options. Stop by adding
So crowding. Like,
just adding other than subtracting at first.
That's a good way to look at it, actually. I
So
like
just
that.
don't go and say, hey, I'm gonna stop eating this, because then you will feel deprived. You will feel like you're giving stuff up. Start adding other options. Start making better and wiser choices. And with time, you get used to those ingredients. You get used to the taste of it. You start craving it, and you start being like, you know what, this is working out for me, and slowly phasing out everything else that wouldn't work for you, for your health, for the environment, for your new lifestyle. You phase out the other ones, but instead of subtracting, just start adding to your diet. Make it more and more and more.
Okay. Let's talk a bit more about when you're in Brazil. You mentioned to me earlier that you used to work at McDonald's, and we have that in common.
No way.
I got fired from McDonald's after 2 months.
You got fired?
Yeah, I wish I'd been fired for animal activism and for all the good reasons. This was about 8-9 years ago, but I got fired for stealing French fries.
No way.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's food. That's a little bit mean.
And the French fries are vegan.
Well, not the ones at McDonald's.
Ah, yeah, true.
Because they fry it in like animal fat.
I don't think that's everywhere, though. I don't think it's worldwide.
Most places,
yeah? I will double check that shit. I'll put a link down below for our McDonald's fries, vegan or not.
Talk to us. Our former employer. Send an answer.
Yeah, send us
an explanation.
Yeah, we'd love. So, how was that for you?
Yeah, that's what the like the interesting thing, because at one point in my life, that's all I knew. Yeah, back when I worked at McDonald's, and that was 1995.
Yeah, I have Flies always join on my podcast. Flies are a big fan of my podcast.
They're nice.
I think they're like, yeah, you. In one of the episodes, we were talking about like flies also deserve to be treated fairly.
Yep.
And ever since, I think the whole fly community has gotten behind the podcast.
I just kindly asked the
you were
fly to
escorting
excuse
it
me.
away,
Yep.
mid-thought.
That's it.
Yeah.
Politeness. Kindness to all beings. So when I worked at McDonald's, I literally ate that every single day.
Yeah.
And that was all there was in terms of food to me, because it was addictive, and I craved it, and I wanted it, and I wanted it every day. And I grew up overweight, and I was, I was unhealthy at that point, because it was so hard to get me to eat any vegetable, or I was the pickiest eater at, age 15 or whatever, 16. I did not want to eat anything. I didn't want to eat meat. I didn't want to eat vegetables. All I wanted was junk food. It was comfort food. Those are the things that I felt comfortable with.
Do you still crave it today?
Not anymore. Here's what I had to learn, because of growing up the way that I did grow up and feeling unhealthy, I developed a very funny and not very good relationship with food. I looked at food as the enemy, because anything that I ate, it was just, adding on the weight, and it was unhealthy. And I got looks from people for eating certain things because I was overweight and because it wasn't good for you. And the one thing I have to recognize about Brazilian culture is that they don't consider a sandwich a meal. Yeah, sandwich is a snack. It's not something that you have as a lunch or
Really?
dinner.
That's universally considered, well, universally in the UK, that everyone has a sandwich for lunch, and that's totally normal.
That was so weird to me because when I went to America for the first time, people would go to Subway or the like sandwich shops, and they're like, "This is what I'm having for lunch today." I was like, "This is a sandwich. That's not lunch," because in our conception, lunch consisted of rice, beans, and something else. So there was always a salad, and it's weird as well how we mixed, we mixed the cold salad with the hot items. Everything in the same plate was always very different. But anyways, growing up, I always felt that my relationship with food wasn't really good, so I needed a change. Yeah, so moving into being a vegetarian, I started to feel better about my choice. But you can still be very, bad and unhealthy while eating a vegetarian diet.
You
or
could
a
be
vegan
super
diet.
unhealthy vegan, yeah.
You can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of very poor choices, and that was what I did for a while, because I still had those same, let's say, I want to say scars from that, relationship that I had with food.
Yeah.
But now I'm probably at the happiest I've ever been with regards to that, because I learned how to look at food in a different way. So
now you're doing like a food blog about vegan food, like
Exactly.
and healthy, whole base, like
full
plant-based.
circle. Yeah,
It's amazing.
Literally full circle. I've learned.
You literally slammed on the handbrake and screeched around there.
True.
Yeah.
True. It's access to information. Now I have information at hand. Literally anything that you want to learn, anything that you want to do has already been done before, has already been researched, has already been, promoted by other people. So all you have got to do is take the time to read into it and to learn more and to explore.
Where'd you get your information from?
From all over. Yeah, from all over. I have many books at home. I have cooking books, that I,
You
look
read
at
books, man.
recipes.
You're old school, huh?
I do read
Books are
books,
good,
and
good,
I read
yeah.
paper. Yeah,
You read the paper.
yeah, sometimes.
Okay, fair enough.
But, well, I can go for the online, online version of the paper, but that's what I get information from.
Yeah, I mean, it's true now. It's so widespread. I mean, even the day that we're recording this, Asil and I from the Dubai vegan community, we were on the radio, which is like mainstream radio that anyone can tune into.
Very nice.
And we were on for an hour talking about veganism, which is something. Well, first of all, I never thought I would be doing. Like 3 years ago, I was making fun of vegan people. Like, oh, go eat your salad, and I was really mean to them. And to like you, that whole full circle, you take one step in the right direction, and all of a sudden you don't know where that's going to lead. You just take, the hardest part is to take that first step.
It is, and it comes with a realization. I don't know if everybody will have that turning point, but I talk to my mother nowadays, and she still talks to me about how she remembers me walking in the supermarket through the meat aisle and being disgusted by it. She still, recalls an episode when she's like, I knew that day that you would never go near meat again, because she saw my face and she saw, but the how revolting that was to me to walk through that aisle. Yeah. And she, to this day, she will send me, videos of children saying, I don't want to eat meat, or crying, all those cute videos on YouTube. Yeah. She'll still send to me, and she's like, that was you.
I mean, they say we should listen to children because children are innocent. And children speak from the heart. They not have these learned behaviors that we have to discriminate. And they do say discrimination is the root of all evil.
Very, very true.
And that's something that comes a lot into veganism, is people are like, oh, but where do I draw the line between chickens, cows, flies, scorpions? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to draw a line. Just try to not discriminate towards anyone or any living being. And that's kind of... But back to the whole traveling. We kind of obviously digressed clearly into a more philosophical path.
Yeah.
Which one is the most vegan-friendly country that you've been to so far?
There are quite a few, yeah. I was very surprised to find that Germany is very vegan-friendly.
Germany, very good, I must say.
Very massive vegan scene on there. Anywhere you go, from the supermarket to any cafe out on the streets, they will have vegan options, and it's a concept that is widespread, yeah. So it's not something that they haven't heard of, because you will get to certain places like I don't know, Japan, for example, and you will try to get your point across and talk in Japan and say, hey, is this vegan? It's something that they're not very familiar with. Yeah. So you have to do a lot of explaining. Whilst in Germany, you just say vegan, and within 3 seconds, you have 500 choices in front of you.
It's interesting, though, because when you look at the countries that are probably like the biggest meat eaters, like you say Germany, pork knuckle, the whole Oktoberfest thing, and Brazil, and even like the UK, we have a big meat culture, roast dinners and all that thing. I find it's actually in those countries that you also have the best alternatives.
Very true.
Whereas you go to Japan, is a very, I mean, they have a lot of, they don't eat much meat. It's a lot of seafood, fish, and things like that.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to actual vegan options, I also find it challenging in Japan.
It is very challenging. Well, I find maybe Asia in general, but if you go to certain places in like Hong Kong, is easier to find vegan options. You know, like in part of the, and it's part of their culture. You know, like it's part of the cooking. Some things they cook.
Yeah. Have you been to Taipei?
I have been to Taipei, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I hear there's a lot of very. Very
because
good.
I did an episode with Seika from For Goodness Sakes. I'll put a link to Instagram, and she's doing like a bit of a global travel, 20 countries, whole thing. And she said so far the most vegan-friendly country that she'd been to is Taipei.
I have heard that before.
And they do like buffets, and there's so much vegan food, which I would never have expected. You know what I mean?
But I think it's one of those places that's like unintentionally vegan. It's not because they're joining the cause or whatever. It's just that they happen to cook, and they happen to cook well, and to get creative with the food. And that's what's, you know, like, and that's what they do. It's like Ethiopian food. They have beautiful options, you know, like Ethiopian food, but it's not, I don't think it's necessarily because of the movement. Yeah, it hasn't affected the culinary. It just has been this way for years. People have been eating vegan food for years, and they enjoy it.
To them.
It's just not, it's just not advertised as vegan. It's just food.
Yeah, and it's true. We do like, people say I've never had vegan food in my life, but have you ever eaten an apple? Have you ever eaten a piece of bread? I mean, most of the food that you eat is actually vegan.
Exactly.
But we put the focus on the non-vegan items of it to define the plate that's in front of you, which is a bit odd, really.
It is weird. If you think about it, you know, like everyone has experienced vegan food, you know, like in their lives, whether they wanted it or not.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the culinary, you know, India and some other countries, they will get creative with the ingredients and they will make vegan options, and I call them like accidentally vegan because they just happen to not have any animal source.
Do you think you'll ever reach a point where it's no longer considered vegan food?
Not in the near future.
Yeah.
No. I think we're still way too centered in that, you know, like separation.
Yeah.
We even have now the separation is needed because of the movement, which is a good thing. Now, if you go on any ordering apps, you can opt for only seeing the vegan options.
Yeah.
So that's entered as a cuisine, which is not necessarily what, you know, like the whole vegan thing is.
That's plant-based, isn't it?
Exactly.
Back to that again, yeah.
So it's kind of like people say, like you've mentioned before. So it's one thing to say I never had Indian food, but then people say I never had vegan food, and it's two different things. Like one is a cuisine, like Indian food is a cuisine. Vegan food is not a cuisine. It's, you know, like it's a style of. Those are just the ingredients. It's just food.
Yeah.
But now, because of the demands, you know, like the apps and restaurants, they found a need to come up with vegan menus, separate vegan menus.
It's become such a brand, you know, and people are benefiting from it economically as well. And it's like, if now that veganism is becoming economically viable, more people are getting on board with it as well. And I think that's also creating demand because there is an offer. So it's great for the vegan community around the world. That's
true. And you see each day, you know, like new Instagram accounts and new brands popping up, and there's one that I really, really like on one Brazilian girl who brands herself as a broke vegan. Okay. And she would literally use the cheapest of ingredients, the most accessible things, the things that you have in your home, to create, you know, like the dishes and to eat on every day. Yeah. And it shows that anyone can do it. And people tell me, oh, veganism is expensive. I'm like, really? Are you gonna go broke because of the price of potatoes or rice?
But you go to a restaurant and the most expensive things on the menu are meat, seafood, and all these things. I don't know where this idea comes from.
Very true. Well, I can think of a possibility, because people immediately, when they think vegan, they go to which is another funny thing, when you go to the supermarket and you go to a place, to a section, an aisle that's called the health food section. I'm like, if this is the health food section, what is the rest of this market?
Yeah, because every unhealthy section.
Every other aisle, it's what?
Yeah. And it's usually right at the back, a really small corner.
Exactly.
Like healthy food.
Healthy food. And you go there and you're mostly vegan stuff. Some of those things are quite expensive because they're very specific. You know, they're substitutes, they're processed things, they're things that you normally wouldn't need on a regular diet, but people tend to resort to if they are not as creative as other people in the kitchen. Yeah. But if you focus on the produce section of the supermarket, so if you focus on buying your fruits and veggies, your grains, your nuts, and that's when you save money. That's when veganism does not become expensive or inconvenient anymore, because it's all fresh, natural ingredients. So you don't need to go out of your way to buy the, like the latest powder that you can add to your smoothie, because those will not be cheap, and those will go for any diet. So if you buy anything that's frozen, pre-made, those are more expensive. So try feeding, try feeding yourself on a diet that's based on frozen, ready to eat plates. That's expensive as well.
Yeah, of course, because someone's already put the effort in to cook for you.
Exactly, it's already done.
Yeah.
So if you focus on whole foods, whole plants, and buy everything, as on its origin, and you cook from scratch, of course it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah. So how do you manage with clothing? Because people always push it further and further. Like, okay, you eat vegan food, you avoid try and avoid plastic as much as possible.
Yeah.
What about the clothes you're wearing? Because there's always more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's true. And what keeps coming back to me, and I see a lot of people trying to pinpoint what is wrong with what we do. Yeah, instead of focusing and appreciating what's right, because that's usually the start of the conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, I admire you.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. You're so good at it. But wait a second, you have an iPhone. Do you know who makes your iPhone? Oh my God, is that a leather shoe? Oh my God, are you're on an airplane that pollutes, and you're on this and on that? Yeah. There are certain things that I believe that nowadays are, unavoidable. Yeah, we have got to get around. If you live in a city like we do sometimes, and you need to drive a car, you have got to drive your car to do certain things. And it's not about doing everything perfectly. Yeah, it's about doing your bit. What is it that you can do? Can I make Apple or any other company make every phone or every product in a sustainable manner? Can I personally force that alone by myself? That's going to be hard to do. Yeah. In the long run, if I start boycotting it, that could be, it could become a large movement. But
you want to have a phone.
That I can do, exactly. The one thing that I can do is control what I eat. Yeah. It's control what I put inside my body with regards to my health, to my choices, to the causes I support. So that's the one thing that is in my hands. It's literally called controlling the controllables. Those are the things that I can.
And you're not missing out on anything. That's
absolutely not.
By going vegan. Whereas, okay, if you choose not to have a phone, and I support and I understand that, but in today's world with social media, I mean, even look, this podcast, most people, about 70% of the listeners listen to it on a smartphone.
Correct.
So you're not having access to certain informations. People use Instagram and Facebook as their livelihood. So if you don't have a mobile phone, you're not connected in this world, it can become a challenge. I'm not saying it's impossible or you shouldn't do it, but you can live the same life.
Correct.
On a plant-based diet as eating meat, and with reducing the suffering and the environmental aspect that you're having, and obviously the one on your health. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I found quite interesting. So have you tried buying vegan clothes and apparel and all that stuff?
Yes, I have looked, yeah. In recent years, I've been focusing more on that, and the whole start of the Vegan Day Instagram and the whole idea behind it was to help promote as well those brands. Yeah. They're conscious and they make quality products for people who are concerned about those things. So I started reaching out and looking at stores that have, options that are, like leather, pineapple leather shoes, and
I've seen that.
All of these kind of things. I've been looking it up, and I'm trying my best to support those businesses. Yeah, and my idea of supporting them is through promoting them, is through talking to them, reaching out to them, and getting people involved, getting people to know it. And for that, I need my phone, and I need to travel, and I need to do all of those things.
Yeah.
So you've just got to make your choices on the day. It's gonna be for the greater good. And I'm gonna use it. And social media can be a very powerful tool if used the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I can contribute. That's how I can give back, and that's how I can support those businesses. There's a lot of people. There's somebody in now that's reached out to me that's making things out of wine corks, and they make jewelry, they make wallets and accessories out of wine. And
that's really
cool. I think that's all brilliant.
Yeah,
I think that's all very valid, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure that these people get the attention that they need, the attention that they deserve for doing something.
Do you know the name
different.
of these people who are doing the?
I will have to look.
We'll have a look, and I'll put a link to them down below to their website.
Just swipe it. How do you call it? The Just click down here.
Click down below.
Click down below. Click on the link down below.
I'm not good enough yet. I don't think I have enough followers to be able to do that, and then they just swipe up and it opens. I think you have to have like a few thousand, is it, before you can?
10. Yeah. We're working on it. Same.
If you listen to this, do follow me on Instagram so I can put the swipe up thing at the Plank Code, please.
So as you're listening to this, just swipe up, find out that it doesn't work because there's no enough followers, and then get people to follow so we can do the swipe up.
Exactly. That's the only reason we need followers.
Thank you.
Swipe up is the most important thing. But yeah, I mean, actually, I'm wearing this T-shirt today. I don't know if you can see this. It says, "I like my hummus medium rare."
It's a nice T-shirt.
It is a cool T-shirt. I think it's quite funny. It's got cat hairs on it, but it starts a debate about meat and stuff like that. But then the T-shirt itself, honestly, I don't know where the source of that T-shirt's from. And I do feel bad about it. I don't know, it probably was made in a sweatshop in a third world country, and it does make me feel bad, and I feel like I should be moving towards more sustainable, eco-friendly, and because obviously human rights are at the center of our movement as well. People tend to forget that. People think we only think about animals, but we consider humans as animals as well.
We have to just look at the bigger picture, and I think what you're doing is spreading the word through your podcast and through those conversations that you have. So you're literally doing your part. And being perfect is such an unattainable concept nowadays, because I feel like each day there is something else that could be done better, and that's how we learn. We learn and develop and we grow just by making the right choices, making the choices that help us sleep at night, not trying to justify our mistakes, owning up to them, and being better people on a daily, and just trying to improve as we grow older, as we grow wiser. And that's what I think we should focus on, other than like dwelling too much on what we do wrong or what we could have done better. Just looking up, saying, hey, give yourself a tap on the shoulder for what you've been doing right, for people that you have helped change, because with your initiative, you are reaching out to people that perhaps are going to make a small change in their lives, and that's an impact, something that they're going to carry forever.
Oh, thanks, Bruno. I should bring you on more often just to say nice things about me.
I'm free tomorrow. Just let me know.
What time?
So it's one of the things that when I see people sending me messages now, and I've started this account not too long ago, and I've received messages from people saying, hey, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to do this for a week, and I'm going to go vegan for a month. And they start telling me those things, and I feel like mission accomplished. If I can get one person to have a good think about what it is that they're doing and what it is that they can do better.
Because you can't force an opinion down someone's throat. You can't make someone change their mind.
Absolutely not. And I've had many friends in Brazil and all over the world sending me messages saying, hey, this is what I found. I found a vegan restaurant here. I want to take you there. I tried the food. It was the first time I did this. My mother, who has been, like her whole life cooking, baking cakes, and she even baked for like confectionery and whatever. She has been looking for alternatives, and she started cooking vegan cakes, and she started to look into a whole food plant-based diet. And I think this is the beauty of what you do, of what I do, is to lead by example, to show people that it's possible, that you do not have to be perfect, but you can make an impact.
You can do your part, for sure. And that's always what I'm trying to tell people, is that I'm a normal person. Well, no, I'm not a normal person. I'm probably less than a normal person. But
same.
Yeah. I mean, everyone can do something, like just make an effort, try and talk to someone, we are vegan or not. I think everyone deserves to share some, and there's even non-vegan people who are doing amazing stuff as well out there. As much as I want everyone to go vegan, and I believe it's the best thing that you can do for the planet.
World,
there are still amazing people out there. So don't hate the sinner, hate the sin.
Correct.
Anyway, anything else you want to talk about, Bruno?
No.
We could sit here all day, couldn't we, really?
I know, it's been a nice chat, this,
cozy.
like this whole chatting
it's
about
good vibe,
veganism.
And once again, we are at Loose Unicorns here in Dubai Marina. I will put a link down below. Do check them out. They have vegan pastries, and there's plenty more vegan options coming. Vegan sausage rolls, empanadas. So do check out Loose Unicorns. We'll be back. I'll be back next week with another episode. Bruno, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for this chat.
Very, very much.
Thanks for sharing your stories.
Whoever wants to have a chat, whoever wants to go out for a coffee, I'm happy to do it.
If you want to go on a vegan date with Bruno?
Yeah, if you want to be my vegan date, find me on Instagram. I'll be happy to go. I'll fit you in, and we can have a nice chat about veganism and whatever else you want to talk about, and enjoy some nice vegan food together.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruno. Guys, tune in next week for another episode of the Plank Code podcast. See you next week. Bye-bye.